I don't need to say anything about this creepypasta, you just have to listen to it. Blueberry Pancakes, written by As Death Beckons. Back in the 90s, I was a student in school up north. I hadn't gone too far from home, but it was still a 2-hour drive. And I didn't have a car. Luckily, I befriended a guy named Steve who was also from my hometown. Every other weekend, Steve and I would go back home to visit our families. One weekend, however, was unlike any other. "So, I'll see you when I get back, right?" I crooned, fiddling with the necklace around the redhead's neck. She smiled sweetly, staring down at the ground. Music was still playing behind her inside one of the dorms. "You know, you've got to be one of the pretties." "Hurry up, man, we need to go." Steve looked irritably at his watch before climbing back into the car smooth. "Sorry about that. He's my ride. But here's my telephone number, okay? Call me when I get back on Monday." The girl grinned and nodded. "Okay." I turned and had to do an awkward jog over to Steve's little Malibu, as it seemed like he was backing out without me. I ripped open the passenger door and climbed in, shooting him the dirtiest look I could muster. "Really, bro? You couldn't wait 2 more minutes?" "It's already 10. Dimitri, we have a 2-hour ride ahead of us, and I hate being on the road this late." "You're the one who just had to go to that party. I feel for you, bro. Rebecca ended up hooking up with that jock, which sucks. But at least one of us got lucky tonight, right? Keep it up and you'll be making a 2-hour walk tonight." Steve rolled his eyes as I snickered. We were on the road for about 45 minutes when my stomach growled. Dang it, I was so busy drinking and talking to that girl, I hadn't thought to eat any of the food that had been offered. I glanced out the window at the wooded area that we were driving through. The road was pretty empty, save for us, which wasn't out of the ordinary around here. Even on a Friday night, the moon was full, glowing above us like a big white cookie. I heard my stomach growl again, and so did Steve. "You sound like a washing machine." "I'm pretty hungry too, man. We should have stopped at that McDonald's back there." "Yeah, we should have. I'd kill for a McDouble and some fries right now." Steve squinted his eyes suddenly, craning his neck forward slightly. "Dimitri, do you see that?" "See what?" I followed his line of vision and saw, about 50 yards ahead of us, the shape of what was undoubtedly a person staggering down the side of the road. "So someone's walking? What about it?" "There aren't any houses out there. Where could they be going?" "Maybe it's a hitchhiker. I don't know." Our headlights shined on the back of the person, who suddenly stopped and spun around. It was a woman, but she looked as though she had been in the ring with Mike Tyson. She had long black hair that was matted due to the blood running down her face. Her blue eyes were wide and bloodshot, and 2 lines of dark red ran consecutively from her nose and her busted lip. She slowly raised an arm as we approached her, and I felt more than a little unease. Are you going to stop for her? Steve looked at me as though I had asked him to drive off the side of the road into the trees. Are you kidding me? Dang no. I'm not gonna stop. He sped up and we passed the woman. I looked back and, watching as she stopped, standing in the darkness and watching us as we drove away. What do you think happened to her? I don't know, man. But I'm way too... I've seen enough movies to know not to stop right now. That's for sure. About 10 minutes later, we saw a sign for an old diner that we had passed a million times but had never actually been to. As our stomachs cried out to us in unison, Steve sighed, whatever, it's already late as heck anyway, let's eat. We pulled over and went into the diner. I was still thinking about the woman and wondered if we ought to use the phone in the diner to call the police. There was just something eerie about tonight that I didn't like. A blonde woman in a pale blue dress was pouring coffee into another woman sitting across from a man who was fast asleep. They both glanced at us as we came in, and the waitress called out, "Take a seat, I'll be right with you." Steve and I sat in one of the little red booths, and I picked up the menu that was laying there. Eggs and bacon sounds great right now. I'd kill for a stack of blueberry pancakes, Steve muttered, glancing out the window. He seemed to be watching the road. I looked out at it too, then back at him. I was thinking, we should ask if they have a phone. Well, they certainly have a radio. We could hear what sounded like a local radio announcer talking about upcoming events in the town, like high school football games and other things. Steve was right, though the radio was awfully loud to not be playing music. Maybe they were on break. The waitress entered up to us, a notebook in her hand. She had bandages covering her fingers. "What can I get you gentlemen tonight?" Steve was staring out the window again. The waitress's dark eyes followed his gaze, and she cleared her throat. "Looking for something?" Steve snapped out of it and shook his head. No. Can I get blueberry pancakes with extra butter? Oh, and a glass of orange juice as well. And for you, handsome? Bacon and eggs, please. I'll have a Coke with that. Coming right up. She walked away, casting a look in the direction of the only other people that was there with us. She disappeared behind two swinging doors into the kitchen. I looked over at the woman with the sleeping husband, and I was quite surprised to find her staring at me. Her eyes were red, as though she had been crying. Feeling awkward, I glanced away and turned my attention back to Steve. We should really ask for the phone, I think. Be quiet, listen. The man on the radio was talking about some sort of emergency now. 3.5 hours now, and the woman still has not been found. Sheriff Kingswood urges caution until the suspect has been caught. She is a very dangerous and violent individual. Picking up hitchhikers is strongly discouraged in this immediate area and the next town over tonight. Steve looked at me, his eyes wide. You don't think? I glanced over at the swinging doors as the waitress re-emerged from the kitchen. Hey, ma'am. Yes, darling? Do you know anything about what the man on the radio was talking about? Her dark eyes fleeted over to a radio and she sighed. I don't want to scare anyone, but apparently a crazy lady broke out of an institution in a nearby town. They haven't found her yet. I thought about the bloody woman lumbering down the road. I wondered how long it would take her before she reached the diner. Okay, thanks for the info. Here are your drinks. The food might take a little while though. We thanked her and she made her way over to the other couple again, where she began mopping the floor. The woman at the other table was no longer looking at me. Instead, she was staring at her husband, who had clearly had a long night. So, why haven't we asked for the phone yet? Steve asked as I continued staring out the window. The trees were swaying in the wind. I kept imagining a staggering figure emerging from within. I don't know. I'd rather we just leave. To be honest, Steve, what if she shows up here? Screw that, I'm hungry. We stopped here for a reason. I want my dang blueberry pancakes. You aren't the waitress. The food is going to take a while. How? There are only 4 people. I found myself staring at the waitress, who glanced back at me. She smiled shyly as she continued mopping. Hey, what's that book called again? I left it in your car. Come and let me in so I can read it while we wait. Doors unlocked. I kicked Steve's leg hard and tilted his head. I stared directly in the eye. Come unlock the door, bro. If not, I'll break your window. Steve and I climbed out of our booth and calmly exited the diner. What is that about, man? Don't look back. Just get in the car, start it, and drive like heck. I don't follow my own advice. As soon as we were in the car and pulling out of the lot, I looked back through the window at the waitress and the other woman were watching us go. The authorities didn't catch her for another 2 days, even after Steve and I stopped at a nearby gas station to use the phone to call the cops. The waitress hadn't been a waitress at all. For the reason the food was going to take so long was because she had murdered the cook before we even got there, as well as the real waitress. Their mutilated bodies had been lying in the kitchen the whole time. She had also slit the throat of a man who I thought had been sleeping in the diner, sparing his wife for some reason. The poor woman had been trying to get my attention without saying anything, but I hadn't noticed that something was very wrong, not until I saw that the waitress had been mopping up blood over there by their table. The bloody woman on the road, an innocent victim. She had picked up a hitchhiker who immediately pulled a blade on her. The 2 of them had tangled for a bit before crashing into the tree somewhere off the side of the road. The escaped mental patient had been relatively unharmed, save for the cuts on her head, and had made her way to a diner, where God knows what she was planning on doing for the night. The poor driver had survived and was only looking for help. Help that Steve and I did not provide. Thankfully, she survived. I am grateful to say the same for Steve and I. I often wonder what would have happened had we asked for the phone or told the waitress about the bloody woman we've seen on the road.